Hi everyone, and welcome to the perhaps most anticipated panel of the conference, and also the panel with the most revealing topic that at least I have ever moderated. It's called Mistakes, Fuck-Ups, and Thriving as a Leader. And as you understand from the title, this panel is all about looking at our mistakes and perhaps insecurities and what, if anything, we have learned from them, but also how the panelists have developed as leaders through it. For the ones that don't know me, my name is Lahcene Merzoug, and I'm the CEO of Betpoint Group. Betpoint Group is an extremely fast-growing operator with some of the most talented and hardworking people I have ever met. So keep an eye out for us because you'll be hearing a lot from us the coming period. When I started planning for this panel, I quickly realized who my two dream candidates were. And that very same morning when I accepted to moderate the panel, I jumped on a call with Jesper and wrote to Oskar right away. And they both accepted immediately, which I'm very, very glad for. And my two panelists that I have with me today are not only industry veterans and great leaders, but they're also friends of mine, which I hope will help in getting them to be extra honest and open with us today. I think most of you know them and that they don't require much of an introduction, but I will let them say a few words about themselves before we get started. Jesper, do you want to start?
Okay, thanks, Lahcene. So I'm Jesper. I'm the CEO for Betsson Group, and I'm sitting here in the sunny Malta today, just like you. Happy to be on this panel. Looking forward to what questions you will put forward.
Oskar?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Lahcene. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be honored or scared when I was the first one you thought about, considering the topic of today. But yeah, my name is Oskar Mühlbach. I'm the group CEO at Raketech, and we help iGaming operators get more marketing buck, more buck for their marketing money, more bang for the buck, basically, for the marketing spend.
Nice. We only have 30 minutes today, and I have a ton of questions that I want to ask you guys, because I have both sat in panels with you and moderated some where you have taken part. And I must say, both of you always look so very calm. Are you guys ever nervous in your job as CEO and being the face outwards for a company in, for example, these panel debates? And if yes, do you have any good tips for the listeners on how to handle it? Oskar?
Yeah, sure, Lahcene. I'm actually always quite nervous when it comes to public speaking or any public address, and it's just something I think is very natural. It's a human sort of reflex of being nervous, standing in front of people. I think people that are not nervous, most likely, yeah, well, there's probably something wrong with them. I think it's the most natural reaction in the world, but something you have to also learn how to live with. And I think just like anything else in life, which makes you nervous, like love or going in a roller coaster, it's also very, very rewarding to overcome that fear and do these things that makes you nervous. And I don't think there are any. The only tip I can potentially give is that I'm when there's something that I'm a bit nervous about, I make sure to be there in time. I put some really good music. Sometimes depending on what it is, it could be AC/DC or it could be Bob Marley. Depends on what it is, and I make sure I come in a good mood, and then I try to enjoy it just like a roller coaster instead of just being scared to death. But yeah, don't really have any good tip besides from that.
That's a good tip, I think. Jesper, what do you say? Are you ever nervous?
Yeah, yes, of course. But I see it very much for anyone who has been in the sports world, know what it means when you're going to go and play a big match, for example. And it's nervousness, but it's a lot of anticipation many times. And I think one tip is not to think too much about it, because if you start to think about what you're going to do, you can lock yourself down a little bit. So try to go with the flow, and when you play a match, you're in the match and you're playing and you don't think about anything else in that sense. So don't prepare, but don't over prepare. That's my little tip.
Yeah, I also agree. I mean, I think that a bit of being nervous, it's actually keep you focused and on the edge. So I think it's good in many occasions.
It is.
Entering new markets with different regulations and consumer trends is always a challenging process. Can you give an example of mistakes you perhaps made when entering a market or tried to gain market shares in any new jurisdictions? Jesper, you must have some examples here.
Yeah, we have failed a lot. I was going to say, but I think we are in many markets today, and the most common mistake that has happened is that as a company you want too much too fast. It's a long-term game in the markets that you enter, and you get very excited when you go into a new market, and of course you want to see numbers quick and good traction and so forth. And there have been times I can give one example is Italy, where we're doing good today, but in 2013, I believe it was when we entered that market, we're so excited about the sheer size of the market and the opportunity. It was a big marketing budget, a lot of TV spend, and we really thought we could take a strong position. And when the budget was over, there was no real business. We had went out way too hard. So that was costly, and it also helped us then to understand that you need to learn the market. You need to understand what working in the specific market to build up your digital channels before you go full out above the line and so forth. So I think that was actually a great learning for a lot of the other markets we have entered, and helped us to be more balanced nowadays. But it's hard sometimes because obviously you're ambitious, you want to go in, you want to win in that market, and it can be easy to be a little bit carried away in that sense. And that's human, I think. But for us, it has happened a few times.
Don't you think many listed operators are also a bit too careful nowadays? They almost try to cost control while trying to grab market shares because the market is just expecting double-digit growth or anything.
Yeah, I think so as well. But when you get to a point where you can be comfortable with your spend, and you can spend a lot as long as you see that the right KPIs are moving in the right direction, then it's very much justifiable, and it's also explainable when that happens. The problem is, of course, when you spend a lot and the growth is not coming. That's very difficult. That's very difficult because then you're doing something wrong. So you can still be ambitious, but you need to make sure that the totality of what you're doing is bringing you in the right way. And if you explain that well, everyone will understand, and it's a good way to gain market share. That's how you do. When you have traction, you need to keep fueling it.
Yeah. Thank you. Oskar, you've been both on the operator side and on the now affiliate side. Do you have any good examples?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with Jesper on all his learnings, and I think all of us have done basically the same mistakes, but maybe from my time in e-commerce, I couldn't share another learning, which would be more of maybe sometimes looking a little bit too much on the market potential in absolute terms, and it sounds like a very junior mistake to do, but it's quite common to do that. And we often look at the American companies coming into Europe, for instance, and they look at Europe as a whole, and then they identify Germany and France, and then they go all out, and they don't really understand the markets, and they get burnt basically. And I think maybe some of us is doing exactly the same in the US at the moment, seeing that as one market. I think there are many markets that are very, very different culture-wise and payment methods, and there are lots of stuff differing. So from my e-commerce time, we did that quite a few times actually, and it took us many times before we learned the lesson. And then eventually we focused on smaller markets where we could learn much more about the market, about the very specific things that were needed, and then with smaller budget make a bigger impact, and then come over that tipping point where we then would sort of own the market, and that's where the margins come. So for us, that was super successful back in those days.
Agreed. Good tips, all of it. Yeah. Next question is about good and bad leadership in general, and I have seen some really good ones, but also some horrible examples. A bad one I heard about was actually here in Malta, but not in our industry. A very close friend of mine worked for a retail chain. I'm not going to mention which one. And every year when one of the two owners had his birthday, the other owner collected money for his birthday gift from all the employees. And this is quite a sizable company. And every year he bought him a gift voucher for all the money at their own shop. And if you were to ever question this setup, you were actually risking losing your job. But do you believe the iGaming industry is modern when it comes to leadership, or do you think anything is missing, Oskar?
Well, I think it's modern in the way that we're a new industry. We haven't been around for ages, so I think we're all still struggling a little bit with trying to find the ground. But I think we're modern in the sense that we're new and that we're super international. We have lots of diversity in our companies. But something that I miss a little bit from also coming back from my time within e-commerce is the sometimes passion for what we're doing. If you can say that, if someone can relate. But I think we talk maybe not so much about the value we bring to our users, our customers, or the value, what differs our offering from others so much, which I think, at least from my perspective, when the leaders I think about that have inspired me are leaders that have really managed to get their vision through about what are we going to achieve and why do we exist, what value do we bring to the table. And that's something I think not so many leaders in this industry talks about. We talk about value to the shareholders perhaps, but that is the effect of bringing value to our users first and foremost. Then the value to the shareholders will come. So that's something I personally miss a little bit in our industry.
Yeah, thank you, Oskar. Jesper, what do you think? Are we modern?
It's a very good point you're making there, Oskar, because we speak too little about that, and I don't think the industry has come together strongly enough either to commonly drive an agenda like that. Although it's starting to happen a little bit more with trade associations and so forth. But that is also because we are quite a young industry, and I think we are a digital industry. So I think iGaming in general is modern. And of course, there's probably a difference here between online and offline in our industry. The offline industry can perhaps not always be on the same digital level as the pure digital companies are, of course. But we are diverse. We have, even in Betsson, we have 60 different nationalities. We are roughly 40% women and so forth. So it's a good diversity, and that is what I consider to be modern. And digital leadership is a modern space as well, though. So I think we are looking a lot at the right type of companies when we are trying to be better. We look at e-commerce companies. We understand that there are a range of companies that set the digital standard, and if we don't understand that, our businesses will not succeed either, though. So from that point of view, we are modern, but in a young industry, we could do much more as an industry to drive a common agenda.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I've come across people that rule by fear also in our industry, but I think that is obsolete, and if you want to attract talent today, you have to have good leadership within the organization, because there are so many good organizations, operators, affiliates, everything out there. So to be competitive, we need to have good leaders within the company. I agree. Another question, it's about company mergers. And company mergers can always, or sometimes then be complicated processes. And often it comes with the need to make hard decisions, joining together different business systems, cultures, and processes. It's sometimes a tricky task. Have have you ever had to learn some harsh lessons as a part of this process? Because if I have to be honest on this one, I don't think I've ever seen a really successful company merge, at least closed up in our industry. What do you think, Jesper?
Well, I mean, we are in the business of buying other companies, right? So we have seen a lot of integrations, and some of them has been going really well, and some has been more challenging. But I think important is it has to be transparent to everyone about what the company who is buying the company, what do you want out of these companies, and what would the rules be like? Because if it's not clear, that is when a lot of frustration happens. But if it's put quite clear, this is how things are going to work, then you can make a decision on that. Either you want to be part of it or you don't want to be part of it, but at least you fully know what the path is, though. So from that point of view, transparency is key, I think. But when you buy something, you need to understand what made that company successful, and it's the people that have been doing that. So if you don't acknowledge that, and if you can bring that forward and embed it into the new culture, then you risk to lose a lot.
Yeah.
So
very good point.
Be tentative.
Yes. Oskar, what's your experience here?
Yeah, I totally agree with Jesper. I think, and to your point as well, Lahcene, I don't think I've seen any, not in this industry or even before that, and I've been in quite a few mergers or acquisitions, both on the buying side and the other side, and I don't think I can ever, conclude that anyone has been super successful. There's always been issues with everything, but I think what Jesper is saying is key here, is to be very, very transparent with the expectations from the get-go, and sometimes that means being transparent with stuff that is difficult or not the preferred choice for groups of people. But I think it's very, very important, because it's eventually going to bite you in the ass if you don't anyways. Yeah. So you might as well be transparent in the beginning. So I think that's totally agree with that.
Good points. And now perhaps a more personal question. And as CEOs, we are forced to make a lot of important decisions on a daily basis. I think the listeners would be very interested to know how you are in your private lives. Are you bossy at home or with your friends? Do you like to be in the center of attention, or is it the opposite once you zoom out from work? Oskar?
Yeah, well, I don't really like making decisions, but so when I come home on Friday, I just want to reduce the decision making as far as I can possibly do that. Yeah, so I don't. I mean, you know me, Lahcene. I'm not sure how you would describe me, but I wouldn't describe myself as a bossy person. But I'm not afraid of taking charge, of course, if that's needed. And but I also have a quite bossy wife, so I don't really need to do that.
Yeah, Jesper, what do you say? How are you at home?
Yeah. No, bossy is a terrible word, both at home and at work to some degree, right? I hope I'm not that either at work or at home, but. I think I'm quite at home. I'm very relaxed. I have no ambition in bossing around with my friends and family. The other way around. It's I'm relaxed in that sense. I hope they will agree.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's clear that we all make mistakes, which this panel is all about. And have you ever made a mistake as a leader? I'm thinking now, big or small ones that you want to share with us today, something that really got stuck in your head, and perhaps something you draw some good learnings from it. Jesper?
I have one example. When I worked in Asia before moving over here, and when I came to Asia, I was going to take over a department, and that was mainly with people from China, Malaysia, Singapore, and so forth. And I didn't really know what to expect, and I came in. I met my management team, and everyone presented themselves, and we had a few topics on the agenda, and I asked for everyone's input. I was thinking, let's have a discussion, and that's perhaps a bit Swedish, but dead quiet, and in the end, someone said, "You the boss, you decide," and I was like, okay. And afterwards, one came to speak about me, and they said, if you want respect from this team, you need to take decisions,
Yeah.
and that I was a little bit too inclusive in my approach from that and stuff. So that's a mistake. I mean, you need to understand the cultural differences, and of course, when you're new to something, you can make those mistakes, and in the end, it worked out really well. It was a great team, but my starting out as the leader or the manager in that case of that team was didn't start out that greatly though. So that's something I remember.
No, that's all the things we learn from. Oskar, do you have any good examples?
Yeah, I have plenty of examples. I mean, that's I think that's what we do, make mistakes, right? And I don't have any funny examples like you, Jesper. But I do have some. I think a mistake that I keep repeating from time to time, even though I'm becoming better and better at it. But it's tough decisions that are relating to people. Or killing darlings in terms of projects where you've invested a lot of time, or people that you really like, but you realize that this is not going to work. It is it in your gut that you know it really early, but then you want to give second chances or third chances, or invest a little bit more, or wait just a little, one more quarter, and that is something that eventually it always turns out that you should have made that decision in the beginning, and it's really hard to do it. I'm becoming better at it, but it's still very hard, and I think that's a mistake that people just keep repeating because it's tough.
One of my mentors once told me, if you're 60% sure, make the decision rather than creating a bottleneck, and I kind of like that, even if it's not 100% true. But speed is of the essence as well. From mistakes now to the complete opposite, and not only do you guys come from a culture, I mean, Jesper talked about it, you're both Swedish, where perhaps openly bragging is sometimes looked down upon, but you're also two of the more humbler people I've met from the industry. And it's exactly because of that I would love for you to tell me and the listeners why you are a good leader. Oskar, why are you a good leader?
Okay. I'm not sure I am a good leader, but I think I tend to, my drive and motivation is to achieve things rather than being someone. And I think, I mean, that doesn't suit everyone, I guess, but for me, that's the kind of leader I want to work with. People that are in it for the change of, or for achieving something, a goal, getting somewhere, rather than being someone in terms of your CV or your title. And I think that quite a few leaders would pursue the title or the fame or whatever it could be. So I think I'm in it because I like what I do. I'm really passionate about what I do. I have fun and I want to get somewhere. I'm not sure that makes me a good leader, but potentially not terrible to hang around, I guess.
I worked for you once, Oskar, and I think you're a good leader, so you can have that.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Jesper, how about you then? Why are you a good leader?
I like what you said, Oskar, as well. I think it's so important that you have to have that ambition and willingness to push forward, and I have that, and I'm someone who believes in a positive outcome. Even if the situation is tough, I think I'm good at still finding a path out of that, and by doing it in an ambitious and positive way, you can get people behind you, and that's what you need. And it's so important to be able to rally a team towards, you know, a common goal and drive that forward. And that is, I think, the energy that we put into that is our, you know, number one thing to do as a leader. You need to give that energy, and you need to be positive, and you need to be able to drive that group forward. And if you feel that you can do that, then usually you see the good results coming out of that. And I love that part of being in such a fortunate position as we are, that we actually can be in positions where we really can impact the organization. So that's inspiring.
Both very good answers. We're soon running out of time, but I actually spoke to Pierre before and said we're allowed to run a bit over time because I have a few more great questions. I'm going to stop tormenting you with bragging about yourself, but let's give some praise then instead. If you had to name one name and a very short motivation of another CEO or senior person within the industry that you've been inspired by as a leader, who would that be and why, Jesper?
Okay, off guard, but I think I can even look. I really enjoyed working with people that are founders as well, and I've been very fortunate to work with Pontus in Betsson, who is a legend in our industry. And the same, my previous company, my boss was a guy called Calvin Eyre, who was also a founder, a very different person than Pontus, you can say. But still, when you have that type of people that have created something from very little to very, very big, that's inspiring. Yeah. So I've learned a lot in different ways from both of them, I can say.
Yeah, thanks. Oskar, do you have anyone that inspired you?
I'm only allowed to say one. I thought what Jesper said was really inspiring, so I would say Jesper then. but if I'm allowed to say a few people, I think it's I'm trying to sort of pick the cherries out of the people I meet. I think, Lahcene, when we work together, the way you inspire people and the way you sort of include people, that's something that I really try to learn from, because I think that's super important.
Thank you.
But then there's also like Ulrik, the chairman of our board. I think he has, he wants somewhere. He wants to take the company somewhere, and he's really eager about that. And that's also motivated me a lot to have that sort of, someone that really wants to push it somewhere. And then actually, Jesper at Mr. Green, we didn't tag along at all times, but I think what he did, he was very passionate about what he did. He really loved, what he did, and I think that's super important as a leader as well. So
indeed, a lot of good answers there.
I want to say that to Oskar, some great examples. I know those guys as well, and they're lovely, inspirational people.
One last question before we round this one off, and it's a random one. Is there a standard for industry leaders when it comes to fashion and look in our industry? Because it seems like chinos and light blue shirts is the go-to apparel for CEOs and other seniors in our sector. Is it time for a change? And or are we just afraid to stick out? Would you, come with nail polish to work if you thought that looked good? Very short answers here because we're over time. Jesper?
No, I don't think nail polish on me looks very good, so I wouldn't do that. But
if you did it,
if I did, then you should. It's all about take something you're comfortable in, and that can be whatever it is. But I think you also need to have a certain standard, of course, because you're still being looked at, and if you don't have a certain standard, you can set a level that is perhaps not the right one.
Good.
But
short, Oskar, you as well. Sorry, we're so out of time here. Oskar, short as well.
Yeah, no. I think we all need to be more concerned about what we achieve and not what we look like. So I would definitely have nail polish if I wanted to.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I just want to give a big thanks to both of you for participating and sharing so much with us today. And I really hope all of you listening enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, everybody, and bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.